The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Chapter 147, Power Difference. After returning to his normal state a few minutes later, Myrtle began to feel the side effects of the fairyland environment on his body again. His worried brothers try to help him. Some of them are more empathetic and others not so much, and Zana. But Myrtle asks them not to worry about him and to concentrate on looking after Mama. The boy, with a sad look on his face and an embarrassed voice, says, "Look what I've done to Mom, who gives us so much love." But Diane asks Myrtle not to blame himself, not to be so hard on himself. Because no injury hurts when she fights to protect her precious children. After saying this, Diane lovingly wipes away Myrtle's tears. Myrtle is still very worried, but Diane, pointing to his bruise, tells him that that kind of scar doesn't bother her at all. However, Diane's attitude generates unusual thoughts in her children, such as Zana, who comments that it makes her sound like a monster to talk like that. But Diane disagrees and warns Zillion, asking her to stop agreeing with her sister. And seeing her mother angry like that provokes some laughter. And Nations confesses that for a moment he even thought the worst could happen, but that now he's relieved and very happy for everyone. And that a mother's love is certainly spectacular. And Tyra reinforces this by saying that, after all, his mother is a legendary heroine who defeated the Demon King, the envious serpent of the 7 deadly sins. And Myrtle even ends up confessing to being a little jealous. But the boy soon starts coughing again and Diane asks him where his pills are. But Myrtle believes that he lost them somewhere while he was out of control. Tyra asks if Nations can help him. The herbalist tells him that he now knows the medicinal properties of mullein, so he can neutralize the seizures. Upon hearing this, Tyra quickly tells Diane that Nations can stop Myrtle's seizures. And the surprised giant wonders if it's really true. And the herbalist kind of admits that he does, but unfortunately he can't do that while he's inside the thing. And Belt is surgical in saying if it totally blocks enemies from entering. I think it also blocks them from getting out. However, Zana seems to have a solution and asks her brother Belt to stay away from it. The girl then prepares herself and lunges at the pollen garden, literally pecking at it, making the garden bounce from side to side. But in the end, the most she could do was almost break some of Nations and Tyra's bones. And as expected, the only option was King, only he can dispel the pollen garden, so Diane summons all her children to look for him. Belt tells them that father went after the hooded man in red who headed for Euphobia's garden. And that Sixis chased the other hooded men who went to the king's throne. Having said that, Zana then suggests that everyone should go after Daddy. But Diane says no, that only she is going to look for Daddy. Everyone else should go and help Sixis. Belt says she doesn't understand, since Sixis certainly won't have any problems. But Diane just asks them to do what she's asking, because she's worried for some reason. That said, she also asks Myrtle to stay with Tyra and Nations. That the 3 of them should wait for their return. And Nations in turn asks everyone to be careful. As they run to where Sixis is, the children talk among themselves. Belt comments that Mama is always worried, but Zillion believes that this is natural for any mother. However, Zana is sure that those henchmen would never defeat Sixis. Just like her father, who would never lose to them, Sixis is following suit, since he has enough power to be the next king of the fairies. Magli is still a spirit sword, second form a hummingbird. With the power of his spirit weapon, Sixis easily defeats several enemies, completely tearing their bodies apart. Some of them, however, counterattack, launching elemental magic attacks against Sixis. But the boy quickly changes the configuration of his weapon, the spiritual sword Magliostilla, 6th form hexagonal walled. A powerful shield rises up, completely blocking his opponent's magical attacks. And after this little clash, Sixis says, "You could have brought someone more powerful, because frankly, I don't want to waste my time with such weak opponents." But without saying a word, the three hooded men simply joined forces. To the surprise of Sixis, who asks, "You have merged?" And apparently that's exactly what it was. The hooded one converged a much greater amount of magic, combining various elements. And without hesitation, he unleashes this magical power against Sixis. However, once again he easily blocked another attack, even though this one had greater offensive power. Nevertheless, Sixis comments that it wasn't bad, but that he could have used this technique from the start. It's much more complicated now, given their reduced numbers. Suddenly, however, Sixis is surprised by the appearance of dozens of other hooded men, who completely surround the boy. Sixis doesn't understand what has happened, how their number has suddenly increased so much, and continues to do so. But soon he seemed to identify something, and without wasting much time, he changed the configuration of his weapon again, the spirit sword Maglistilla, first form Magliostilla. But before he could attack, his target raised one of his arms and conjured a perfect cube.
Perfect cube!
Sixis is trapped. But it's not over. The same person who conjured the cube also conjures the magic of the four leaping elements, and teleports it into the perfect cube, literally bringing chaos into the perfect cube. And leaving Sixis extremely bruised, fallen at the feet of the real enemy, the true identity of those hooded men. But Sixis wasn't going to give up, and he surprised his enemy with his speed, the boy appearing behind his opponent ready to counterattack and asking why he was hiding his real strength and who he was after all. And that knight replies, "I am Worlden, but I am also called the White Knight of the Four Dangers." And he finishes by saying, "I think the same as you, because I also hate wasting my time on people who are weaker than me." The last of the four dangers, the White Knight revealed his true power and easily defeated Sixis, the one who holds the power to succeed the King of the Fairies. Continued in the next chapter, entitled Dark Clouds.